Today, we're going to look into a crazy story that will make you feel amazing things and make you think about what we really know about life and everything that comes after it. Finney Pierce is a young man who had a near-death experience after a serious accident and received an urgent warning about an event that is about to happen on October 15th. Make sure to comment your name plus country for good luck. And get ready for a spiritual journey that will blow your mind.
Hello, my name is Finney Pierce, but most people just call me Finn. The Rocky Mountains are in the background of my little apartment in Lake Louise, Alberta, and I can't help but feel a strange mix of joy and wonder. I want to tell you a story that turned my life upside down. I'm still trying to figure it all out. I'm 53 years old now, but let's go back to 1996 when everything really began. It had been a year since I taught English in Japan, and I was 25. I have been traveling around Southeast Asia. I had a great time abroad, but I always felt like I wanted to go back home. Mountain views, clean air, and a strong sense of freedom all drew me back to Lake Louise, a small, peaceful area. Lake Louise isn't a big, busy city, but man, this place is so beautiful it can make you feel drunk. I got a job at a nearby shop, so I had a lot of free time to look around. On my days off, I would hike, climb, and then ride my bike through the mountains. That's where the real story starts. It seems like just yesterday that I bought my Purple Trek mountain bike. Pretty fast. It wasn't just a bike. It was like a part of me. I loved playing on the paths around Lake Louise. I'd fly down the steep hills while the wind whipped past and the world blurred into a crazy, thrilling rush. But hold on. I'm going to skip ahead. I want you to understand why I'm telling you this before I go into the specifics of that day. What happened was much worse than just being very close to dying. I saw something out of this world, and it gave me one clear message. October 15th, 2025. That date has been stuck in my head for years. I have no idea what will happen that day, but I know it will be big. For everyone, not just me. So here I am, looking out at these mountains that have seen it all, and I'm filled with a crazy sense of excitement. Let's go back to the day that changed everything before we talk about what's coming. Lake Louise had one of those great summer days. The lake was a beautiful shade of emerald green, and the sky was as clear as glass. The sun was shining, giving the mountains of the Rockies a golden glow. The next morning, I felt like nothing could stop me. I was ready for anything the mountains had in store for me. This trip had been planned for weeks by my friend Liam McLeod and me. Liam was the real deal when it came to mountain riding. He had lived near Lake Louise for years and knew every trail inside and out. Every mountain turn, twist, and secret danger. He planned them all out. He taught me the ropes and showed me how to really ride my bike on those rough roads. I had full faith in him. We had big plans for that day. We were going to use the main road to climb one of the area's tallest mountains, and then this almost secret trail to get back down. It was meant to be really hard and very technical. Liam thought it was just another day in the woods. For me, I could really test myself and see what I was made of. We left early in the morning when the air was fresh and full of possibilities. It was hard to pedal up the main road. Each stroke used up all of my energy, but it felt great. Liam and I kept talking, telling stories and laughing about fun things we had done in the past. I felt like I was going to pass out by the time we got to the top. The view from up there? Stunningly beautiful. There were no limits to how far the Rocky Mountains went in any direction. One peak after another disappeared into the distance. Things felt so right, like I was meant to be here, even though the air was thin and cool. But I couldn't quite shake this strange little knot of dread that was running through my body. After all these years, I wonder if it was a sign. A gut feeling that something big was about to happen. I didn't care at the time because I was too caught up in the moment. At the top, we took a moment to enjoy the view and get ready for the drop. Before I agreed, Liam went over the plan again and pointed out some of the more difficult parts of the trail. My heart was racing with a mix of nerves and excitement. Then, with a smile and a nod, we jumped downwards. The trail's first part was just like I thought it would be. Without a doubt, it was hard, but it was also exciting. As we sped up, every bump and jolt sent a shock through my handlebars. The gravel crunched under my tires and the wind whipped past my face. I was able to focus perfectly. Then, something changed. I might have gotten cocky, or it could have been the excitement. I pushed myself harder, went faster, and probably shouldn't have taken as many chances. I thought I could do anything, and nothing could stop me. Then we got to that part of the trail which would make everything different. I remember it so well. The next part was going to be really tough. There would be a sharp turn, and then a bunch of big rocks that you would have to get through perfectly. I couldn't catch up to Liam because he was already ahead of me and making his way around the hurdles with ease. I felt so sure of myself as I watched him that I thought I could do it too. You could even brag a bit. When I leaned hard into the turn, I could feel my tires grip the loose gravel. Everything felt great for a split second. I was in charge of everything. I thought I was anyway. After that, and things went completely crazy in the blink of an eye. The front of my bike hit a rock at the wrong angle, and all of a sudden, the bike jerked sharply under me, twisting my handlebars to the side. Time slowed down as it hit me. I was going down. I was flying through the air, weightless, in a strange, dreamlike moment. Before I knew it, the world turned. When I hit the ground, it felt like a bullet went through my whole body. There was a lot of pain in my arm, and the sound of my helmet hitting a rock hurt my ears. I fell down the hill and couldn't stop rolling. As I fell, rocks, twigs, and dirt scratched at my skin. I could taste blood in my mouth, and the sky and ground became a blur that made me dizzy. After that, there was nothing. Being black. The next thing I remember was a spotty, dreamlike mix of sounds, feelings, and trouble. There were scared voices around me. I felt like I was being moved, and I heard what I think was a rescue truck. But it was all fuzzy, like trying to remember the specifics of a nightmare you've already forgotten half of. When I woke up, I wasn't in a hospital bed like you might think. Not at all. I was passed out on the floor of my own room. My arm was covered in dried blood, and my broken helmet was next to me. The pain never stopped and went through every nerve, but the feeling of being completely lost was even worse. What the hell did I do to get here? What happened from the crash to when I woke up in my apartment? I didn't know the answers back then, and I still don't. I picked up the phone and called my friend and neighborhood nurse, Jen Dubois. I was shocked and lost. She got to my house in record time, so I must have sounded pretty crazy. I remember how her face looked. Shocked, but also calm, like someone who knows how to handle a problem. She looked me over quickly and told me right away that we needed to see a doctor. There were a lot of pokes, prods, and those worried looks doctors give you when they don't want to scare you. They cleaned and bandaged my cuts and put a sling around my arm. It's strange that I wasn't taken to the hospital. Now that I think about it, I wonder if the doctor didn't realize how badly I was hurt, or if there was something more going on than what was normal in the medical world. I got back home, but I was still very sleepy and confused. I was lying in bed that night trying to figure out what was going on with the strange events. Little did I know that things were about to get even stranger. Like, out of this world. Stranger. Something amazing began to happen as I swayed between being awake and asleep. At first, it felt like the pain and heaviness in my body were going away. I felt lighter, like I was slowly letting go of the real world. After that, in the blink of an eye, everything changed in a big way. It felt like someone or something else grabbed me and pulled me up and away from my body. Everything I knew, my apartment, my injuries, the whole world, was gone in an instant, sucked up by a flash of bright light. Out of the blue, I found myself in a place that's hard to put into words. I'll do my best, though. Imagine being in the air above a sea of pure, bright light. There was no such thing as up, down, or space as we know it. The light wasn't just around me. It was inside me and going through me, as if I had become the light itself. At least in a physical way, I wasn't Finn anymore in this place. I was nothing but awareness. Pure awareness floating freely in this endless sea of love and peace. It was so different from anything else I had ever felt, like I was back in a place I knew but had forgotten about. I felt like I belonged and was coming home in a way I couldn't even put into words. Then I became aware of two beings with me. They weren't real people. They didn't have faces or bodies. They were just bright, powerful balls of energy and light. I knew right away what their names were. Hees and Caden. They did not use words. Instead, their feelings and thoughts just came flooding into my mind. It was such pure and clear communication that it made languages used on Earth look awkward. They welcomed me with love that was so strong and unwavering that it almost threw me off. At that moment, I felt like everyone knew every flaw, mistake, and bad side of me. It didn't matter, though, because they accepted me so deeply. I was loved completely and without any holds barred. I knew deep down that this wasn't a dream. It was real. It felt more real than anything else I had ever experienced. I was also sure that this was just the beginning, in a way that made no sense. Hees and Caden led me through this bright realm and showed me things that both amazed and humbled me deeply. What they showed was how everything is linked, how our actions and thoughts have effects on the whole world that we can't even begin to understand. From the edge of space, I saw Earth as a beautiful blue ball floating in the void. It wasn't just a sight, though. I could feel the energy that ties all living things on Earth together, like a web that is very complex. My awareness grew as we moved through this place of endless possibilities. I was taking in information and ideas that seemed too big for my head to handle. Hees and Caden were there the whole time, though, to help me, guide me, and get me ready for what was to come. I had no idea that the most important truth about the world was still waiting for me. It would make me question everything I thought I knew about it. As I sank into that ocean of love and light, Hees and Caden started to show me something that made me question everything I thought I knew. The real nature of duality. The thought that light and dark are not enemies but rather two parts of a whole that hold everything together. The energy around us changed in a small way to begin. I felt the bright light I had been in start to fade, but not in a scary way. It seemed more like it was making room for something else. Then I saw it. It was dark. It wasn't like the darkness we see here on Earth where the light just goes out. The darkness in this room was real. Somehow it was beautiful in its own way. It wasn't words that Hees and Caden used to tell me that this darkness wasn't bad. It was their feelings and thoughts. There was no reason to be afraid of it. What it was just the other side of life, the balance to the light, the opposite that gives everything we know meaning and contrast. I saw that there could be no light without darkness. We couldn't grow without problems to solve. Love wouldn't feel as valuable without loss. As I thought about what I had learned, they showed me Earth again. This time, I could see how the light and dark forces were dancing around and through it. I saw how times of great darkness in human history often led to amazing times of light, like kindness, bravery, and big changes. That's when it hit me. The hard things that happen to us aren't punishments or mean jokes from the world. They are chances for us to learn, grow, and love more deeply. We can bring more light into the world every time we go through a hard time. I didn't feel scared or hopeless when I realized this. Instead, it made me feel at peace all the time. That no matter how dark things get, the light is always there, waiting for its turn to shine again. I understood this like I had never before. And most of the time, our strongest times come when things are at their worst. Hees and Caden showed me how this idea of two sides to everything is woven into everything. Happiness and sadness, success and failure, life and death. Everything is a part of the same dance in space. They taught me that the best way to be wise is not to stay away from darkness, but to learn how to walk through it with ease and understanding. At that very moment, I knew that this idea was a gift that I would always treasure. As this information began to sink in, I felt a huge change in how I saw things. All of a sudden, the worries and fears that had been bothering me all my life seemed so small and unimportant. What used to be a lot of trouble for me turned out to be a way to grow and change. But even as these cosmic facts sank into my being, I felt a pull, a link that kept me in the real world. At that very moment, my mother was having her own battle with cancer back on Earth. That's when I knew my journey wasn't over. What else could I discover? Maybe there was a way for me to bring some of this light back to the world I had left behind for now. I had no idea that my plea for help would lead to something even more amazing, something that would not only change my life, but also have effects on many other people I could never have imagined. As the deep insights about duality began to sink in, I felt overwhelmed with thanks and awe. But in the middle of all this cosmic understanding, a very human worry cut through the peace and quiet of this light-filled realm. My mother. My mother was bravely facing breast cancer in the real world. The peace was broken by the thought of her struggle, which made me feel a rush of love and worry that brought me back to the real world. I reached out to Hees and Caden, my new friends in this space of pure conversation, before I even had a full thought. They knew right away that I wanted to help my mom. I didn't have to say anything or describe her situation. In one moment of pure purpose, I told her how much I loved her and how much I wanted her to get better. Hees was the one who answered my quiet plea. I could feel waves of deep kindness coming from her. It was an understanding that went beyond the universe and directly linked to the bond between a mother and child. Her answer didn't make me feel bad, and it didn't question my desire to get involved in what seemed like the right thing to do. There was only love and a real desire to help. I was amazed as Hees turned toward a light source that was even brighter than anything else I had seen in this bright land. Looking into the heart of a star was like looking into a ball of pure, holy energy. I didn't fully understand what Hees was doing, but I could feel the immense power and purpose behind her movements. When she came back, she brought something very special with her. A bright ball of energy that pulsed with an intensity that words can't describe. A ball of light is not a good way to describe it. This sphere seemed to hold all of the universe's healing power, sending out life, love, and endless possibilities. I was so amazed when Hees gave me this gift. It was like I was holding a piece of the universe itself, a force that could change the very structure of reality. I knew at that moment that I was in charge of something very holy. Not only did I want to heal my mother's illness, I also wanted to bring a piece of holy light into the world. As soon as I got that bright sphere of light, something amazing happened. It felt like every cell of my non-physical self got filled with information. I suddenly understood how the body works and how illnesses like cancer can throw off the balance of energies that keep things in order. It wasn't just information, though. It was a deep, intuitive understanding that was beyond anything I had ever learned in this world. It was very clear to me that real health wasn't about fighting illness, but about bringing the body, mind, and spirit back into balance. It was so simple, but so deeply beautiful. When I held this holy gift, I felt full of hope and trust. There was no question in my mind that this light could heal my mother. But what was even more important to me was that I knew I had been picked to bring this healing energy back into the world. I was amazed by how heavy that duty was. Still, as I was amazed by this gift and the information it held, I felt the air around me change. There was a soft but clear sense of urgency. I could feel that my time in this beautiful world was almost up. Someone had given me a unique gift and a task, and now it was time for me to go back. I felt myself being pulled back before I could fully understand what was going on. As time went on, the bright light dimmed, and Hees and Caden's presence became less clear, until all of a sudden I was back in my body. My mind was still very clear about the ball of light as I lay in bed. When I opened my eyes, I was shocked by how normal everything looked. When I thought about how beautiful the place I had just been was, my room and the usual surroundings seemed so plain. But I could tell that something inside me had changed deeply. That holy light's energy was still with me. It was humming just below the surface, ready to come out. That's when I knew my journey wasn't over. It was really just getting started in a lot of ways. Someone gave me a gift, a reason, and a message. And while I lay there, my body was still hurt and sore from the bike accident, but my spirit was stronger. I promised myself in my head that I would respect what I had been through and bring this light and responsibility back into the world with me. Back then, I had no idea how deeply this experience would change my life, or the amazing things that would happen because of this special gift. When I finally woke up in my body, it was like being doused in cold water after being out in the sun. The difference between that world of pure light and love and the harsh reality of my hurt body was shocking. The pain came back quickly, a sharp reminder of the bike accident that started this whole trip. When it was in its sling, my arm hurt and every action hurt all over my bruised body. But for some reason, the mental and spiritual turmoil I was going through seemed to be much worse than the physical pain I was in. After meeting God, how could I go back to normal life? How could I explain something that went against everything I knew about the world? As I slowly sat up in bed, grunting from the effort, these questions kept going through my mind. The first few days after I got back were a blur. I had doctor's visits, worried friends calling to check on me, and long periods of quiet reflection. I found it hard to worry about everyday things like bills, work tasks, and errands. How could I when I had seen how big the universe is and how deep the truths are that run through everything? Even though I was going through a lot, one thing was still very clear. My mother. In my thoughts, that ball of light and the healing information it carried were still very clear. I had to do something, but I wasn't sure what. I finally felt well enough to go see her about a week after the accident. I remember having a strange mix of excitement and fear as I stood outside her house with my hand on the doorknob. How should I tell her all of this? Would she think I was crazy? It turned out I didn't need to say anything. As soon as I walked into her room, something strange began to happen. That ball of light I had received in the other world seemed to start to take shape around me. Even though I couldn't see it, I could feel its warmth and energy coming from inside me. I had to be careful when I hugged my mom because my arm was hurt, but I could feel the energy moving from me to her like air. I wasn't even aware that I was doing it. It was like the light was reacting to my love for her on its own. There were no flashes of light or amazing signs in the usual sense. But I knew something important was going on in that quiet, tender moment. And as I held her, I could feel the light moving through me and into her, giving her the healing power I had been given. I couldn't see the effect right away, but I knew it was there in my heart. It was possible to join. At that very moment, I knew that this journey was not yet over. It was just starting. There were no sudden wonders or bright flashes of light. What helped my mom get better was a quiet, almost unnoticeable flow of energy. At that very moment, I knew that the gift I had been given was not about quick fixes or big shows of power. Instead, it was about bringing divine love, balance, and unity into the world, and letting the process happen at its own pace. We were amazed to see how much better my mother's health got over the next few months. Her doctors didn't understand why treatments that hadn't worked much before started to work right away. Within 6 months, she was told she no longer had cancer, which her doctor called miraculous. For me, seeing my mother get better was a powerful confirmation of what I had been through. It connected the supernatural trip I had been on to real-life events. But it also made me feel very responsible. As I thought about how I could use what I had learned to help other people, I realized that health and balance were not what they seemed to be. The weight of duty made me feel like I didn't know where to start. As I thought about these questions, I started to notice other changes in myself. After my experience, the things I learned about the body's energy processes and the link between health and illness didn't go away. Instead, they seemed to grow. I learned things about the body on my own that I had never been taught. I wanted to learn more about alternative healing, energy work, meditation, and spiritual ideas that were similar to what I had seen and felt in that world of light. It wasn't just learning for the sake of learning. I felt like I was getting ready for something bigger. The most important change, though, was how excited I started to feel. It was during my near-death experience that I not only got recovery information, but also a message that stuck with me deeply. The date is October 15th. I had no idea what was going to happen on that day, but I knew it was important. The excitement grew stronger as the years went by and the date got closer. Every new thing I learned and every event I had seemed to be getting me ready for something big. Now that I look back, I can see how much that time changed my life. From the outside, it might have looked like nothing had changed. I still lived in Lake Louise, worked at the bookstore, and spent my free time hiking in the beautiful forest nearby. But on the inside, everything had changed. The things I learned and understood in that otherworldly place helped me start living in a different way. I spent a lot of time meditating, not just to unwind, but also to stay in touch with the higher state of mind I had felt. I changed how I saw the world around me. Everyday life made the complicated dance of light and dark that Eris and Caden had shown me on my trip stand out more. It seemed like everything was linked to everything else, and I had a better understanding of how the good and bad things in life are connected. I was okay with these changes, but I couldn't get rid of the idea that everything was leading to something bigger. October 15th was a big date in my mind. I didn't know what would happen, but I knew it would be important. I had no idea that what happened that day would change not only my life, but also the lives of many others, in ways I have no idea of. As my journey went on, it made sense for me to learn more about different treatment methods. I became deeply interested in healing techniques like Reiki, acupuncture, and energy healing, after having a deep intuitive understanding of the body's energy processes. Reading about these practices wasn't enough for me. I wanted to really get into them, try them out for myself, and see how they fit with what I had learned on my journey in the realm of light. My connection to nature, which was already strong, grew stronger. The mountains around Lake Louise were no longer just a beautiful background or a place for me to play outside. They turned into a living thing that I could connect with on an energy level. Aside from getting exercise, I walked for hours to connect with nature in a deep and important way. I felt like the energy of the mountains, the sounds of the trees, and the flow of the streams were all part of a bigger talk that went beyond words and spoke to me deeply. How I dealt with other people was one of the biggest changes in my life. The love that Eris and Caden gave me without conditions showed me what kindness is really like. I found that I was able to hear more deeply and get to the heart of what people were saying. People started to contact me because they thought I could help and understand them in a way that went beyond normal advice. When word got out that my mom had miraculously recovered, friends came to me for help. I wasn't sure at first. The thought of being seen as a wonder worker made me feel bad. Even so, I couldn't ignore the fact that amazing things often happened when I focused on channeling that holy light. I never said I could heal anyone, but I thought of myself as a channel for the same healing energy that had helped my mom. The effects were different, sometimes very noticeable and sometimes not. But after our meetings, most people said they felt deeply peaceful and in balance. It became harder for me over the years to figure out how to include this new part of myself in my daily life. There were times when I wondered if I should have left my quiet life in Lake Louise to reach more people. How well was I taking care of the gift that was given to me? When these questions came up, I would feel a gentle reminder, a warmth in my chest, a whisper of comfort that seemed to come from somewhere else. I learned over time that my road wasn't to become a well-known spiritual teacher or healer. Instead, it was about living out the lessons I had learned in a quiet way that would change one life at a time. The date October 15th kept coming back to mind, making me feel a mix of excitement and worry. I could feel that something important was coming up as the day got closer, but I couldn't see what it was yet. It seemed like everything I did and everyone I met led up to this moment, which made me even more sure that it would be a turning point in my trip. As I looked out the window at the beautiful Rockies in the quiet of my apartment, I thought about how my life had changed since that terrible day. The mountains, which used to be a playground, had turned into a holy place to remind people of how everything is linked and how they are always learning and growing. When October 15th came around, I knew I was ready to face whatever came my way with the same sense of wonder and excitement that had led me all these years. As October 15th got closer, I became more aware of my surroundings and thought more about myself. The air around me seemed to be filled with a sense that something big was about to happen, and I felt the same way. It was only a few days until the date that had been stuck in my mind for almost 30 years. I felt both excited and uneasy about what was to come. There were big changes going on around the world, and people were looking forward to what was to come. Rapid changes in technology, changing geopolitical landscapes, and more people becoming aware of global problems like climate change all seemed to come together to create a larger, almost palpable sense of transition. We all felt like big changes were coming because of conversations with friends, strangers, and even people we just bumped into. A lot of people talked about big steps forward in technology, spiritual awakenings, and a deep sense that something important was about to happen, but many didn't know the details or what the date meant. Scientists were talking about discoveries and breakthroughs that had never been seen before, and spiritual leaders from many faiths called for unity and getting ready for a new era. Even world politics, which usually stays calm, seemed to be holding its breath, as if it were waiting for something big to happen. This feeling of anticipation around the world seemed to mirror what I already knew and the deep experience I had years before. Even though I was thinking about things happening around the world, I often thought about my time with Eris and Caden, the love and wisdom they had given me, as well as the insights they had given me about duality and how everything is linked, stayed at the center of my thoughts. I knew that the balance of light and dark, the need for both in the big picture of things and the power of pure love, were not just ideas. They were real things that led me. Even though I had been practicing for years, I was well aware of how hard it would be to get ready for something that wasn't clear. How does one get ready for an event whose nature is still unknown? My main goal had been to stay connected to the lessons I had learned and use them in my daily life. I had tried to live my life with honesty, kindness, and an open heart, because I knew that these traits would help me get ready for whatever came next. We were getting more and more excited as the date got closer. There was neither pure joy nor fear. Instead, there was a deep, knowing calm that something important was about to happen. There wasn't just one person feeling this way. It seemed to affect everyone. This made me think that the next date might be a turning point not just for me, but for everyone. When I looked out at the familiar peaks of the Rocky Mountains, I felt a deep connection to the natural world. It reminded me of how much I had learned about how everything is related. Anything that was going to happen was going to be an amazing adventure that I couldn't even imagine yet. I was ready for whatever new journey lay ahead in this last stretch before October 15th. A strong base was made up of the lessons I had learned, the gift I had been given, and the sense of balance and togetherness that had become important to me. With a heart full of hope and an open mind, I was ready to face the unknown. The world was my teacher. That ball of light I got does not only change my mom's life, but it also changes the way I think about recovery and balance. What's going to happen next? Are all of us about to have a big awakening? The 15th of October is coming up and I want to spend more time outside. The mountains have always been a safe place for me, but now they feel like a straight link to that other world I saw. For hours on end, I sit by Lake Louise and meditate, leaving myself open to any advice that may come my way. When I'm at peace, I have these vague feelings about the future. They're not clear messages, but I get the sense that people are about to take a huge step forward in their awareness. Of course, I also remember that whatever comes next will have its good and bad points, problems, and chances. I've also had a strong desire to connect with other people. I've been telling my story more freely, not to persuade anyone of anything, but to give them hope and a sense of what's possible. It turns out that a lot of people want to talk about this. It seems like they agree with us that something big is about to happen. I've been thinking about how this excitement has changed my life as the days go by until October 15th. The trip has been just as important as the end goal. I've grown, tried to understand, and lived each day with purpose because I knew this date was coming up. I'm very sure of myself now that October 15th is almost here. I know that everything that happens is part of a bigger plan, a dance between light and dark, challenge and growth. As I get ready for bed tonight, I can't help but wonder, will the world be different when I wake up? What kind of change do you want? Will it be big and sudden, or small and slow? Or is it something that I can't even imagine? Tomorrow isn't just another day, that's for sure. We were moving toward this day, even if we didn't know it. I'm glad to be here and ready to take on whatever comes my way. I silently thank heaven and Caden, the universe, and any higher power that has been leading us on this trip as I close my eyes. I promise to be brave, have an open heart, and know that we're all a part of something much bigger than we can imagine as the days go by. It's October 10th at night, and the air is electric with possibilities. As I sit on my porch and watch the sky turn bright orange and pink at dusk, I feel a deep sense of wonder and joy. Today was not like any other day I've had. When I woke up, I felt like the wall between our world and the place of light I went to was getting thinner. There have been calls and texts on my phone all day from friends, family, and even people I don't know. What's going to happen tomorrow has everyone excited, interested, and a little scared. The basic truths I've learned have helped me calm them down. We're all linked. Love is the strongest force in the world, and there's always a balance to be found, even when things change a lot. I felt drawn back to the shores of Lake Louise in the evening. That's where my trip began many years ago. It was very quiet where there usually a lot of people are. It was like nature was holding its breath for something. I closed my eyes and tried to feel the energy around me while sitting by the water. Even though it wasn't as clear as when I was close to dying, I could still feel A.S. and Caden's comforting presence. It was a lesson that there is more to life than what we can see. Something wonderful was there when I opened my eyes. The top of the lake, which is usually moved by wind and boats with tourists, was still as a bell. It was hard to tell the difference between the sky and the lake because the sky was mirrored so well in the water. It seemed like a great way to describe what I've learned, which is that things that seem different are actually all connected. When the sun went down for the last time, I went back to my room. It was surprisingly quiet on the streets of Lake Louise, and you could feel the excitement in the air. It seemed like everyone could feel something different, even if they didn't know what tomorrow meant. As I write this, I'm thinking back on my journey, from that life-changing bike ride and meeting Heath and Caden, to my mom's amazing recovery, and the years I've spent learning new things and sharing what I've discovered. It seems like I've been building up to this moment my whole life. I've thought a lot about what kind of change is going to happen. Will everyone around the world feel it at the same time? A slow change in the way people think? Or something so deep and beyond what we know now that we can't even begin to imagine it? But as the night goes on, I understand that the event itself is more important than the details. The most important thing right now is how we deal with it, with open minds, courage, and a willingness to accept whatever comes our way. I can't stop thinking about all the people who are scared or uncertain about the future. I wish I could tell them about the peace I have and how I know that everything that happens is part of a bigger plan. Light and dark always have their place, even when things are changing and getting hard. As I get ready for bed, I feel a strong sense of readiness. I've shared my story, helped people heal, and tried to live out the lessons I learned during my near-death experience to get myself and those around me ready. There could be big changes tomorrow, or it could just look like any other day, with small changes we can't see right away. No matter what happens, I'm sure it will be the beginning of a new era for everyone. I close my eyes, lie down, and take a deep breath. Then I silently thank Heath and Caden, the universe, and whatever greater power has led me. I promise that I will go into tomorrow with an open heart and full faith in the goodness of life. It's 11:59 p.m. on the clock next to my bed. The day we've all been waiting for is coming up, October 15th. I feel incredibly excited, like we're on the verge of something huge. With a soft welcome, I look forward to the new day and all the things it will bring. As I fall asleep, I feel at peace and excited for the start of a new phase of my life. I know this for sure. We are all a part of something bigger than ourselves, no matter what tomorrow brings. In the big dance of life, we're all linked, loved, and significant. We are excited to start the next part of our journey together as we step into the unknown. What did you think of this amazing story? Feel free to share your ideas in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon to never miss a new video. Let's tell everyone that there's more to life than what we can see.